Good Good evening, everybody. I will call the regular council meeting of August 14th to order at 5:30 p.m. and ask if there are any amendments to the agenda.
You Mayor Williams, I have.
Thank you. And the motion that the agenda for the regular council meeting of August 14th, 2024 be approved as presented. Moved by Councillor Bowman, seconded by Councillor Timpson. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Declarations of pecuniary interest.
You Mayor Williams, I have none.
We have some minutes to adopt. The minutes of the July 17th, 2024 regular council meeting, the July 17th, 2024 public hearing, and the July 23rd, 2024 special council meeting be approved as presented. Moved by Councillor Rita, seconded by Councillor Bowman. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. And determination of items requiring separate discussion. Staff report 7.1, community improvement plan applications. Councillor Van Breda. 7.2, Lost Lake Center. We need to lift. I guess we need to lift that. So, anybody want to be the first to speak? Lift it. Councillor. 7.3, Sioux accelerated housing round 2 proposal. 7.4, authorization for the borrowing to Ontario Infrastructure and Lands Corporation. So we have two items listed, 7.1 and 7.2, and two items, 7.3 and 7.4 to adopt. So I'll do that now. The motion to adopt 7.3 and 7.4. Moved by Councillor Van Breda, seconded by Councillor Nagle. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Staff report 7. No, sorry, we'll go to delegations first. Thank you. And I believe we have a delegation tonight. So please step forward to the. Barry, could you just help with the mic and just make sure it's set up and state your name, and the floor is yours for 10 minutes or less.
My name is Krista Story. I am from Hudson, and I am here to talk to you a little bit tonight about the proposed Lost Lake Drop-in Center. I've just turned the mic off for a second.
For the recording, we commit to the public to record the meetings, and without the mic, it doesn't get recorded. So it helps the people behind you hear you as well.
So I'm here to talk about the drop-in center tonight. Public speaking is not really my jam. I had to write my speech out and I'm just going to read it as is. I wish I could ad-lib, but I can't. So good evening, Mayor Lawrence and members of council. Thank you for granting my request for delegation. It is my pleasure, and I'm very excited actually to be here today to speak to you about the Lost Lake Drop-in Center and what it means to our community. A little bit of history. The Lost Lake Drop-in Center, which is located centrally on 2nd Street in Hudson, so that's our main street, has been a fixture of our downtown area for many years. The Lost Lake Drop-in Center was operated as a senior center for decades, I think 20 to 30 years, and was a home to like teas and socials, luncheons, parties, coffee groups, and many more varied activities. Changes to the name and dropping the requirement to be a senior allowed all residents of our community to participate in and belong to the center, which has expanded its reach and impact on the community. The center is also revenue generating for the municipality. I understand that that would be a very small amount of revenue, but the center does pay rent. So not unlike the rest of the world, when COVID happened, that drastically changed things for us. The center was closed. Many of the elderly volunteers were self-isolating and unable to resume their services or participate as a volunteer, even once things slowly started to reopen. I myself moved back to Hudson from Southern Ontario in 2021, and right away I saw great need in our community for resumption of services. Initially, we had some thoughts about opening the Lost Lake Drop-In Center as a cooling station. Sorry, I've lost my spot, to offer local residents relief from the heat. It was actually quite hot that summer. And I also thought it might be a great place for us to have Wi-Fi, so community members without access to the internet could come to the center to pursue job opportunities, online education, and of course, like entertainment and social media. So as we were generating these ideas, we had some discussions between myself and the former president of the Lost Lake Drop-In Center, who basically gave us carte blanche to go ahead and have some activities there for our community. We started small. We had a craft sale with a few local vendors. The sale was really well received, though, and the Salvation Army thrift store located in Sioux was kind enough to donate us some thrift items. And we were able to generate some funds from selling those thrift items to basically allow us to carry on. Our funds were depleted, but those funds and opening up this thrift store allowed us to be able to carry on to pay our rent and slowly move forward with some services. This has evolved into a thrift store that is open 3 times a week and allows for area residents to shop for thrift items at very reasonable prices, as well as a small snack canteen where you can buy a cold drink or a sweet treat. You can also sit down and have a cup of tea, socialize with friends, work on a puzzle, play a board game, whatever you like. We didn't stop there, though. We can still see and feel the need for a social connection post-pandemic. A small group of volunteers have worked together to organize further vendor craft and bake sales. We were able to host 2 charity events, raising funds for a local child who is facing a difficult diagnosis of cancer, along with a fundraiser for a former resident of Hudson who was also facing a life-changing diagnosis. So we started from the ground up also during this time, a food pantry. That food pantry allowed anyone with need to come to the center to discreetly shop for pantry staples. And we were able to keep that going for a year until the Sioux Food Bank was back up and running, like kind of a post-COVID thing. So we no longer maintain that food pantry on site at the drop-in center, but we still volunteer with the food pantry and do deliver to residents of Hudson when called upon. And we also hosted a community-wide Christmas potluck that was attended by about 30 community residents. We broke bread together, reinvested in old relationships, and made new friends. And that was a really special time for us. That wouldn't have happened without the Lost Lake Drop-In Center or the revenue generated by that center. The staff there, the revenue helped us pay for the hall rental and like pull this event together. So these are like central, to our community. To have a place to meet and do these types of things is so important to us. The center has made numerous donations of clothing to various organizations, including local area hostels, and we've helped at no cost to local community members with clothing and household goods when theirs was lost due to fire. The drop-in center with the Hudson Planning Committee has also donated funds to cover the HST portion of the new Hudson sign. And so for 3 nights each week, residents of Hudson have a centralized location that they can go to shop, work on a puzzle, to have a cup of tea, browse the thrift and snacks. This is the only location in Hudson that community members can gather and socialize. Recently, actually, a new group has started to gather on Sunday nights to play games as well. So that's big for us too. We've lost our community stores. Our industry is gone. Our public school is gone. The LCB is closed. There is no gas station. There is no garbage dump. We don't have reliable or regular access to hub transit. We have a post office and the drop-in center. I know I've talked about this before, but this creates a food desert, which is particularly affecting our seniors and those of our community members who are most vulnerable and do not have the means or access to drive to Sioux for groceries, medication, medical care, or social interaction. All those things are equally important. One gentleman on council mentioned last fall that residents of Hudson could drive to the Sioux Area Senior Center if needed. With all due respect, sir, That really is out of touch with your constituents and like the needs of our community. And I would really like for you to revalue and redact that comment. I don't know if that's possible, but I think another thing that I wanted to share with you also is that you thought it was a senior center, but it's actually an activity or a drop-in center for the entire community, not just seniors. So the outreach is greater than just seniors. When you guys talk today or decide whether to proceed with the next stages of planning for a new community center in Hudson, I ask you to please keep these thoughts in mind. The center provides a gathering place for residents farm-wide. It is an inclusive space where all are welcome. It provides affordable options to access clothing and household goods. It is a meeting place. It's a place to plan, share stories, plan the next community event. It is where the Hudson Planning Committee now meets, community-wide yard sales, pop-up barbecues. It's a spotlight on a little town that persevered and made the best of some challenging circumstances. Grassroots initiatives, I think, which are very important to any community. They're community-based approaches created to address localized problems. We are those roots, and the center is the hub. We are addressing localized problems by meeting, we're seeing a need, and we're working actively to fulfill those needs within our community. We are motivated, dedicated, and invested in our community, and I really need the council members and Mayor Lawrence to be invested in our community as well. You can show your support for Hudson and its members by voting to move forward with a new facility that will allow us to continue to engage with each other and the community, to provide outreach, foster inclusion by creating a safe space for all. Our 300+ community members pay into the tax base and support local Sioux businesses on a daily basis. And of course, we're glad to be able to come here, and we appreciate the services. We need the groceries. I think we're asking you to invest in us as well. And please support us as we work together to build up our little community. It means so much to us. In the municipality strategic plan for the 2024-2025 fiscal year, Mayor Lawrence states council is united in its belief that it's important to celebrate our cultural diversity and continue to find ways to work with others to ensure the health, happiness, and prosperity of all our residents. I feel really strongly like this safe space, this meeting place, that will go a long way to help us work towards those goals. And council had also identified in the strategic plan 5 strategic priorities for the community: innovation and development, community wellness, regional collaboration, community engagement, and operations excellence. Building a new structure to replace the current facility would meet these strategies that you've identified as important, and made the focus of your strategic plan for the fiscal year. Finally, I would ask that you consider the alternatives Hudson will be left if you choose to vote against a new facility. It is widely known that the current facility is in poor shape, that's no surprise, with identified structural concerns, issues with mold, water, and more. I would want you to ponder or consider where you propose we would meet to conduct the activities and events I've described above if you vote against the new facility. What would remain in the downtown core of Hudson? Right now, I can answer that for you. It would be 3 vacant stores, a post office, and the community hall, which too is aging rapidly and unaffordable to rent for most of us for events. Please consider this an investment in the future of all residents of Hudson and vote yes today. Thank you everyone for your time. Am I supposed to ask if people have questions?
We can do that. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your presentation.
You're
And
welcome.
public speaking is just fine.
Well, thank you.
I find it easiest always to have prepared notes. Keep showing.
Sit back.
Okay, very well done. Council, questions for the delegation? If there are none, it's the second item on the agenda tonight, so we'll have a debate back and forth here. No questions, council? Councilor Timpson.
What is the population of Hudson now?
I believe it is approximately 300.
That's considerably up from before, which I think was 150 a few years ago.
We're seeing like new people, new families, people who can't secure housing, so look out, of course, which is a challenge, and young families, 4 for the first time in quite a while, we have young families and babies in Hudson, so it's pretty exciting.
Thank you for that presentation. Very interesting.
You're welcome. Thank you for having the time to hear me out.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Council, first item on the agenda is, community improvement plan applications. Council direct staff to award the following incentives through the community improvement plan and to enter into an agreement for disbursement of these funds with each successful applicant. First Inn and Conference Center Incorporated, facade improvement grant, $5,000, improved signage grant, $2,000, landscaping, $1,000, total $8,000. 2. Thank you. 2656116 Ontario Incorporated Fresh Market Building Renovation and Improvement Grant, $10,000. InCan Group Landscaping, $1,000, tax increase increment grant, $5,319.62. Accessibility grant, $4,524.88. Total $10,844.50. Former Mayfair Building, 1000257 Ontario Incorporated. Facade improvement grant, $5,000, signage, $1,000, building renovation and improvement grant, $4,844.50. Total $10,844.50. Mitchell Wills Residential Intensification Grant, $9,000. Sunset Inns Incorporated, facade improvement grant, $5,000, improvement signage grant, $2,000, landscaping, $1,000, total $8,000. The Hub Collective, building renovation and improvement grant, $6,215, landscaping, $1,000, total $7,215. Need a mover, put this on the table. Councillor Van Breda, seconded by Councillor Lego, and we'll start the discussion with Councillor Van Breda.
I am in favor in most of the time. I just have a couple of questions, just to make sure it's all right. So for the Incan group, I know that they're for taxes one. They applied for the tax increase increment grant. What's the maximum amount for that one?
Through your Mayor Lawrence, it's in the report here, the maximum amount is 50% of the tax increase to a maximum of $10,000.
Okay. And the other question I have is just for the Mitchell Wells, are they allowed to use the grant to put in heat pumps?
Through your Mayor Lawrence, it's up to them how they
It's
use
up to council, okay, yeah. I
it.
mean,
No, sorry, it's not up to council, it's up to basically they're getting the residential intensification grant for taking an existing lot and increasing the density on that lot. So in this scenario, there was a single detached dwelling, they've now we're building a fourplex. So they've increased it by 3 units, so they get just to help offset those costs.
Anything further, Council? Councillor Lego.
No, I'd be in favor of all of these. The money's put in there for us to use to give out to people to improve our community. So I have no issue with that. And we'll work again the next few years to build it back up.
Councillor Van Breda.
so my other question I just have right down here. Are we planning to have one next year as well? Because I feel like a lot of people see this, other people will be interested as well. Their plans for next year.
Yeah, through your Mayor Lawrence, the intention is to budget 25,000 a year. And depending on the uptake, if there's money left over, that would stay in and continue the 25,000 per year until we receive a maximum of 75,000 in the account. But ideally, we're making use of it every year and providing these opportunities in the future.
Question, what led us to have, I think I know the answer, but what led us to have 75,000 now versus 25,000? We weren't receiving applications?
Through Mayor Lawrence, we had been putting some money in over the past few years, but the CIP program, we were working towards updating it. And then we finally, kind of got to that point this spring, so we had some extra dollars in there. So.
Okay. People are aware of it, obviously, and have applied, and the program seems to be working as intended. Anything further, council? Councillor Cassidy.
So if we run into this situation again next year, where just, for instance, say we have this many applicants. Do we have, or I don't recall seeing it, but is there like a ranking system or any kind of structure for weeding this out and determining a priority or how we want to approach it, or is it just throw it out to us at the table and let's kick it around and see where we land?
Through Mayor Lawrence, so certain applications don't have to come to council. So up, I think it's up to $10,000 and less than three grant requests can be done at kind of the municipal table, so we can do that through our working group. Anything over the $10,000 ask or more than 3 applications for one party that has to come to council, then yeah, we would provide a recommendation. And as for priority, so our gateway areas, downtown areas, and certain types of projects that we feel would best benefit or be benefited by the grant, I guess we would rank it based on our meetings we have and that recommendation.
Thank you.
Anything further, council? Yeah.
A few ones just to add to what our development services manager said. If the program is oversubscribed next year, which if this year is an indication, it will be, it'll probably be, you know, if we got the same number of applicants this year, next year as we did this year, there would be 3 times as many applicants and requests for funds as funds will be available. So this time, because the committee wanted council to see all of it. That's why we brought things that we could have awarded at the committee level, but we wanted council to see the full picture of what was being recommended. In future years, although the terms of reference provide the committee can make those decisions at that level. If the program is oversubscribed, I will likely discuss with the committee that will once again bring all of the options to council so that council has a full view of what's being requested, especially if the program is oversubscribed.
Good, I think it would be prudent to work on something, perhaps a formula or something, or some parameters for those recommendations early, because my suspicion is it will be able to subscribe next year. Council, anything further? All in favor? Carried, thank you. Item 7.2, Lost Lake Center. The council directs staff to complete an invasive asbestos audit of the existing Lost Lake Center. And further, the council directs staff to host an open house in Hudson to request feedback on the updated design. And further, the council directs staff to complete construction-ready drawings based on the updated building design and additional feedback received. Moved by Councilor Lego, seconded by Councilor Cassidy. Discussion starting with Councilor Lego.
So after these steps are taken, how long does it take to get receive an answer back for funding? Usually.
3 months for the phase.
And when are we putting in for the full 500,000? That's the intention.
We may large, yeah, based on the valuation we have so far, we would be eligible for the full 500.
My vote hinges on getting that funding. We're looking at over $1 million with the taxes included. And I think, I don't know, once we get to that point, we'll be looking at figuring out if we could make a bit more on leasing the space and finding ways for the community to work within that as well. So we're drawing some funds back in. My concern is the municipality will pay for it all and it's just going to be used however someone needs fit. I don't know if there's been thought put into.
Few Mayor Lawrence, yes. So the the history of the use of the space, as Ms. Story actually quite eloquently described, has been the municipality's approach to the Lost Lake Drop-in Center historically has been a bit of the hands-off, laissez-faire, let the community sort of do, you know, what it deems important. I would envision with construction of a new building that there would be, I would likely propose some type of agreement between, you know, potentially the Hudson Planning Committee and the municipality that would sort of talk about the use of the space and, you know, what's appropriate and, you know, what that's going to look like. So in some ways, I sort of see the project as you know, the municipality's presence in Hudson sort of for a recreational community space. So think of it as, I mean, obviously not to the same scale, but as a rec center for Hudson, you know, a place where they can gather, everything that Ms. Story said in her delegation, you know, rings true in terms of appropriate uses and a gathering spot and the importance to the community fabric and bringing people together. So I would envision that there would be an agreement between the municipality and the Hudson Planning Committee that would sort of, you know, delineate those types of things about how it's used and when it's used, and if there's requests from other types of user groups and how that gets addressed and so on and so forth. So, and as Ms. Story noted there, the group currently pays some rent for the use of the space. So, you know, we would look at some type of arrangement whereby that continues in some way, shape, or form. I think the other thing that council may wish to consider is that by constructing a new facility, you know, especially in the first 5 or so years, you know, you can anticipate significant reductions in terms of like maintenance costs and heating costs, and because you're dealing with a new building. So I think that's something to keep in mind as well. You know, with respect to the portion of the report that speaks to the demolition costs, I would suggest to council that the cost of construction and cost of demolition sort of looked at as 2 separate cost centers, because the building is going to have to be demolished regardless of whether a new building is built. So I think it's important to keep that in mind with respect to the type of investment that's being made in Hudson. I'm not sure if I answered your question, but I just told you a bunch of other stuff.
That's how I view it as well. As we have our rec center, it is subsidized, but they do generate some revenue. So I would just like to, as we move forward, that some revenue would come in, even just to pay off whatever's going to be the outstanding long-term debt over the 25 years that we have that debt. So that was my only 2 concerns.
And if I may, through you, Mayor Lawrence, I think that I don't want to be too presumptuous about what that agreement might look like or what that revenue might look like at this point. I think that is something that if the decision is made to move forward, that is something that staff can discuss with the Hudson Planning Group or Committee, pardon me, and work out an agreement that's fair, equitable, reasonable, all those kinds of things. So that would be our vision in terms of next steps.
Just before council, I'm going to come to you, so I just wanted a clarification. CEO staff. On the motion, the last item is the council directs staff to complete construction-ready drawings based on the updated building design. So the design concept that's there now and the feedback that is received at the open house meeting. So that would happen before the working drawings went to where we're voting. And what we're, by voting yes for this tonight, what we're voting for, it's limited. The limit so far is the preparation of working drawings, as the government and the treasurer said yesterday for many funding programs to be shovel ready. We'll be ready to go to tender. So that's thanks to the council. Councilor Van Breeden and Councilor Vaughn.
We still have that $300,000 in the reserve fund, right? Yeah, so like to demolish a building is $293,000. So essentially that's paid off per se. So we have the 300,000 in the reserve fund.
Through Mayor Lawrence, yeah, if council decides to use that money for that purpose, yeah.
The reserve fund is for the Hudson building.
I believe it is, but the treasurer might be able to.
So through you, Mayor Lawrence, yes, the $300,000 has been set aside within the building reserve in order to support this project.
Yeah, so I would just argue that it's for the building, not for the demolition. Yeah, so
Yeah.
just. It's a fine point, but Councilor Bull, oh, sorry, yeah,
A few minutes, yes, and just to expand on what you said, for the purposes of applying for the grant funding, it's to our benefit to show our contribution to the project as being that 300,000, so it just, it's a bit of a nuance, but it does help on the funding side of things.
yeah. Councilor Bull.
Has there been any discussion between the community hall and Lost Lake Center to combine resources to look at a facility? Because if you, the letter here, until this story clarified, you mentioned that there was no other spot to do some of these things, but the community, there is the community hall. I'm just wondering if there's been any discussion on that.
Sure. So through you, Mayor Lawrence, the initial consultation that we had in Hudson in February, I believe it was, the community was very clear about the challenges and deficiencies with respect to the hall. The other difference is that the hall is entirely operated, maintained, and rented out by the municipality. And so if we were, for example, looking at some type of revenue arrangement where the amount that's paid for the use of the Lost Lake Drop-in Center is what we would now accept for the use of the hall, the municipality would actually see a reduction in revenues because we rent the hall out for more than what we get for revenue from the Lost Lake Drop-in Center. So if we were to do that from strictly from a cost perspective, we would actually, municipality would actually lose money. And then it would also mean that, and the reality is that the hall is also aging and has certain deficiencies. It is costly to operate. And it is nearing, I would suggest, and development services manager, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would suggest that it's nearing the end of its useful life as well. Obviously has a few more years in it than the drop-in center does, but it's certainly not a long-term viable solution for a community space in Hudson, unfortunately.
Councilor Bull.
So the new build for the drop-in centers gonna take over the overflow from the community hall and that is its life.
I hope so. I think that the drop-in center is certainly used more frequently by the community. Obviously with the updated design, you know, in order to try to reduce some of the costs, obviously the building footprint, the total square footage is smaller. But the hope would be that there would be the ability to, and that would be part of this agreement that we negotiate with the Hudson Bank Committee about third-party use of the space. And so for rentals, for funerals, for, you know, study things like that. So that's what we would envision, is that it would still be a community space.
Councilor Timpson.
Yeah, I think we have to look at Hudson is really a boon to Sioux. You know, the housing crisis here is dire and it is filling a great need over there. And it's become much more of a community today. We have 300 people there than it was 5 years ago. And I think we have to build up Hudson in order to, you know, maintain that status. I mean, there are people who are putting brand new, very modern homes there, whereas 20 years ago, that was not the case. And I think there are still sufficient lots there that could be sold. Am I correct on that, Sam?
Females, there are still lots available in Hudson. Sometimes lots become available. There's always private sales as well. So there's certainly room for growth.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to support this, because it supports Sioux as a whole, and we want to attract people to come here and live here and buy homes. I think we have to, we've been talking about this for 12 years, and I think we have to just move ahead on it. Stop twiddling your thumbs about it and just go.
Anything from the Councilor Cassidy?
Yeah, first off, I do support this. I think, Sioux Lookout is a growing community, and when I say Sioux Lookout, I include Hudson in that. In all aspects, and I think losing an asset like this is a step back, and I don't think that's something we should be taking in our community. My one question for this would be for the RFP, would SLAM be eligible to put in a bid on that as well?
You may learn, yeah, they're still interested in potentially utilizing their carpentry program for this project, so we would incorporate that one way or another.
Perfect. That's the only question I had, but thanks.
Anything further, Councilor? I think for all the reasons stated by the story and at the council table here, I think this project, we should pass this resolution tonight to move forward with this, as Councilor Kitson said. And it'll be coming back to the council table again, I guess that, what would the next step be, here?
Female one, so we will, staff will work on the process to complete the invasive asbestos audit. That's a critically important information before we move forward. We will arrange the open house. I anticipate that will happen within the next month or so. And at the same time, we'll be concurrently, we'll be working on the phase one application for funding. That, of course, will come back to council. And then from there, that'll be an opportunity to provide an update to council on the feedback from the community and the results of the asbestos audit. And then next steps will come from there.
And you also have authority here to go ahead with the working progress.
Yes. Thank you.
Councilor Labour.
There's asbestos in the community hall as well.
We have 3 mail alerts. We have completed like non-invasive asbestos audits on these 2 facilities, and none was found, but you just never know. And yeah, like especially the concern with the Lost Lake Center in particular is the attic space could have a vermiculite in there. The community hall is a little different because it's not insulated the same kind of way, being that culvert style building, but I'm safer to say there is no asbestos in the community hall versus the Lost Lake Center. You might find something.
I just figure if we're doing the one now and we're considering in a few years that community hall will have to come down, that have them both looked at.
3 mail alerts, that makes sense. I mean, you could see some cost savings rather than 2 separate audits. You just kind of combine the 2.
We might want to look at a friendly amendment. That's a good idea, Councilor Labour, to add the community hall to the first bullet point on the invasive asbestos audit. Councilor Bowman.
And when we're putting this out to the public for information, like myself included, I basically thought it was used for a senior center. I think we should just block in multi-use drop-in center. Just make that a little clearer so people, because that's the confusion, as it was for me as well, right?
CIO, I'm going to suggest that friendly amendment.
Very good, Mayor Lawrence. So the first part of the recommendation would then read that council would extract complete and invasive asbestos audit of the existing Lost Lake Center and the Hudson Community Hall.
And like Councilor Lago was the mover of the resolution.
Correct.
Yeah, we're good with that amendment, so I'll put that to the vote. All in favor of the entire amended resolution? Carried. Thank you. And that brings us to an end, and I'll just pause for a moment. That brings us to bylaws, and we have some lengthy bylaws tonight. Well, I guess under outside resolutions, yeah. So bylaws, bylaw number 71 -2.
Yeah, if you, Mayor Lawrence, please excuse me just for a moment, I'll check and take over this part.
You bet.
Thank you.
Bylaw number 71 -24, being a bylaw of the Corporation of the Municipality of Sioux to authorize the borrowing upon serial debentures in the principal amount of $610,932 toward the cost of the Wellington First Avenue infrastructure project. Bylaw number 72 -24, being a bylaw of the Corporation of the Municipality of Sioux to authorize the borrowing upon serial debentures in the principal amount of $865,306 towards the cost of the 8th Avenue infrastructure project. The bylaws number 71-24 and 72-24 be read a first, second, third time and passed. Moved by Councilor Lego, seconded by Councilor Cassidy. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And Treasurer Weaver's left the room, so I'll just get the resolutions here. Normal Resolution 2024-32, recognizing the essential role of nurse practitioners in Northwestern Ontario Municipal Association Healthcare Services. Letter of support for nurse practitioners to obtain billing numbers. Whereas nurse practitioners, NPs, possess the necessary skills and expertise to independently handle CTAS 3, 4, and 5 cases in the emergency room, as well as provide valuable assistance to medical doctors, MDs, in managing CTAS 1 and 2 cases. Whereas in situations where MDs are unavailable, NPs have the capability to collaborate with MD support virtually to effectively manage and treat CTAS 1 and 2 cases, ensuring continuity of care for patients in NOMA. Whereas NPs play a vital role in patient health continuity by providing comprehensive and holistic care, addressing not only the physical ailments of patients, but also considering their mental and emotional well-being, thereby promoting overall wellness. Whereas NPs significantly contribute to the overall patient care by utilizing their expertise to refer patients to specialists, write prescriptions, and order specialized testing, ensuring timely access to appropriate healthcare services and enhancing the quality of patient care. Whereas NPs have demonstrated their ability to deliver high-quality healthcare services, improve patient satisfaction, and bridge the gaps in healthcare access, particularly in underserved areas of the NOMA catchment area. Whereas NPs have undergone extensive education, training, and certification, equipping them with the necessary knowledge and skills to provide competent and compassionate care to patients in Northwestern Ontario. Recommendation, therefore, be it resolved that 1, that the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Sioux recognizes and appreciates the invaluable contributions of nurse practitioners in the healthcare system, particularly in the emergency room setting. 2, that the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Sioux supports the autonomy of NPs in handling CTAS 3, 4, and 5 cases independently, as well as their collaborative role in assisting MDs with CTAS 1 and 2 cases, recognizing their expertise and ability to provide safe and effective patient care. 3, that the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Sioux acknowledges and encourages virtual collaboration between NPs and MDs in the absence of an MD, ensuring that CTAS 1 and 2 cases are effectively managed and treated, thereby promoting seamless continuity of care for patients. And I should have emphasized, encourages virtual collaboration, meaning online. 4, that the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Sioux recognizes and values the significant role NPs play in maintaining patient health continuity, providing comprehensive care that encompasses physical, mental, and emotional well-being, and fostering long-term relationships with patients. 5, that the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Sioux acknowledges and appreciates the expertise of NPs in referring patients to specialists, writing prescriptions, and ordering specialized testing, thereby enhancing the quality of patient care and facilitating timely access to necessary healthcare services. 6, that the Council of the Municipality of Sioux commits to advocating for the recognition and support of NPs at all levels, including government bodies, healthcare organizations, and the public to ensure that NPs can continue to make significant contributions to the healthcare system and improve patient outcomes in Northwestern Ontario. 7, that the Council of the Municipality of Sioux will actively engage in initiatives and campaigns aimed at raising awareness about the essential role of NPs, promoting their professional development, and advocating for policies that enhance their practice and remove barriers to their full scope of practice in Northwestern Ontario. 8, that the Council of the Municipality of Sioux will collaborate with relevant stakeholders, including nursing associations and healthcare organizations, to promote the advancement and recognition of NPs, fostering an environment that values their expertise and contributions in NOMA healthcare services. Moved by Councillor Van Breda, seconded by Councillor Timpson. Discussion. Councillor Van Breda.
The only thing a nurse practitioner can't do, what a doctor can do, is just refer, right? Refer patients to, let's say, a dermatologist.
I don't believe we have the expertise of to answer your question, sir.
So I mean, I remember growing up in Pickle Lake, you only saw the doctor if something was really bad with you. Nurse, for me, an NP has always been the doctor. Unless maybe something was really wrong with you, then you got shipped up to Silicon. But yeah.
Anything further, Council? I think it's I'm pleased that no one's brought this forward. I think it's a positive, it's a large step for the healthcare system and I will support it. All in favor? Carried. 12.2, support a set aside for Northern Ontario with the Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program. It used to be RNIP, now it's OINP. Whereas employers across Northern Ontario are experiencing a critical shortage of skilled workers contributing to a shrinking labor market. Whereas the labor shortage is causing significant economic hardships for Northern Ontario communities, including reduced productivity and business closures. And whereas population and migration trends to 2021 suggest that Northern Ontario needs 100,000 newcomers by 2041 to sustain current population. And whereas the success of the federal, rural, and northern immigration pilot, RNIP, demonstrates the effectiveness of allocating nomination spots to address regional labor shortages and attracting newcomers to Northern Ontario. And whereas the Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program has been expanded from 9,750 nominees in 2022 to a goal of 21,500 nominees in 2024. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Sioux urges the Government of Ontario to address the critical labor market shortage in Northern Ontario by allocating 3,000 Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program spots to support the region's economic growth and development. Moved by Councillor Lego, seconded by Councillor Timpson. Comments, discussion. Councillor Timpson.
Yeah, I think everybody would agree the contribution that immigrants, new Canadians are making to Sioux now, and we wouldn't have a lot of our businesses if we had for them. I have in the last several months had several contacts with some new Canadians, but also friends of theirs. They approached me asking for questions or for some support or some help of some sort. And as a result of that, it really hit home that we're bringing in a lot of people who are new to the country, new to the language, new to the culture, and are at much higher risk for social, mental health problems, etc. And I'd like to add a clause to this that would strengthen the government's responsibility to make sure that these folks are supported in a culturally appropriate way. And I don't know the exact mechanism in which that would happen, but I have composed a clause to this that I would like to see added, in which immigration authorities and the government work with existing services here so that there are culturally appropriate supports for new immigrants that adequately address their health and safety issues. In some, in the types of situations that come to my attention, there's been income insecurity, food insecurity, nowhere to live, and even a possible abuse situation. And certainly we have the agencies here, but are they equipped to deal with the cultural, the language differences that they would encounter? So I would like to see government and the immigration authorities boost up that part of this.
I fully support what you're suggesting in one way. I'm just gonna ask a couple of questions. This resolution did this come from NOMA? Okay. I'm just wondering, Councilor Tippin, if we, and CAO, would it be more effective if we, a month from now, to compose a separate resolution? And I think, to your point, I think that immigrants come under these programs and may not, in the smaller, more remote towns, we get immigrants coming who would have much larger support systems if they were in Toronto or London or Ottawa, because they would be several thousand or whatever. There'd be a cultural associate, and I don't want to pick out any specific names, but there would be a cultural association, a community group, a church group, or whatever, that because there's been a large population base there. In smaller, more remote towns like Sioux, Kenora, all of Northwestern Ontario, rather than even Thunder Bay, we don't have that. But the people need something like that, and the vulnerability is that they're dealing with new systems, their culture is different. But I'm wondering if we shouldn't be crafting a separate resolution that addresses your point, absolutely, but it's crafted in a little bit more detail, looking for support for municipalities such as ours and the people who, the immigrant population who need that support. Just a thought.
Yeah, I'm not sure the most effective way to advocate for this. I could see adding a clause to this, which would go in with the NOMA. But I could also see having a separate resolution that details, and then it's more in more detail.
So let me ask this here, so if we add a clause here, is it just our resolution that goes back to NOMA with that clause added? And how do they handle one municipality suggesting something like that? Whereas my thought was that if we, go ahead, answer my question, thanks.
As you hear once. Yeah, so the request has come from NOMA to support their resolution as part of their overall their new framework with respect to all the items that they're advocating for Northwestern Ontario. If a clause is added that they feel may detract from the primary request, they may simply just choose not to incorporate that resolution with their stack of resolutions that they share with the province. And I would, through you, Mayor Lawrence, respectfully recommend that that council looks at a separate resolution. I think that there are some details that would need to be fleshed out, including, I think at this point, maybe some assumptions are being made with respect to the capacity of local agencies and so on. I think it would be fair and appropriate to consult with those agencies first to see what their capacity is to support newcomers in the areas that we're discussing. And also I think the resolution should have a very clear ask. I think, we need to provide more services to support these people is a little too vague for the government. I think that the government will be looking for specific asks. Like this one, we want 3,000 dedicated to Northwestern Ontario. And I think that would need to be what our resolution would need to look like as well in terms of specific requests. And I think that those specific requests could be informed through the process of engaging with some of the local agencies, because they can better identify where the gaps are, which can then inform the requests made in the resolution, is my suggestion.
We might also, Councilor Tippin, be able to contact other smaller municipalities throughout Northwestern Ontario and see what their experience has been. And if it's ever get their support for something that we we put forward to them. And even Thunder Bay has many more services and larger services. They might not have the density of the cultural groups yet, but they have more services. I'm just about that we might be more effective.
I suppose how do we get the message to Noma?
We create a resolution that we perhaps have the support of some other towns, mayors and council in the region, and send it to Noma and say, we would like this message put out as an outside resolution.
Yeah, certainly I'm willing to, you know, consider consulting with the agencies. From what I do know, I think that some people are just not going to the agencies because of language differences, or maybe even don't know that they're there. And I'm not thinking so much of people that are here sponsored by certain businesses, because apparently the businesses do have the obligation to look after their employees. And I did speak with one employer last week, and, you know, they went to the extent to get somebody psychiatric help, and then eventually repatriate back to his home. It's the people that are off no longer under the work permit program, and they've got their permanent residence, but they serve out there on their own. And but we don't know that all the employers that are sponsoring people, we don't know that there is helpful and supportive as the business I spoke with. But I mean, it certainly is something we could do a little bit more research and even talk with the Chamber of Commerce and what they're seeing.
You know, I mean, it might be funding through what's it called, Ontario Services or Service Ontario, that the government fund through Service Ontario, a cultural liaison officer who is specifically, it could be, we could. They're a touch point, a base point for the people that you're talking about who refer them to there, and they are somebody who is fully aware of all the services and helps them get connected to the right service. And that would be a specific, I'm just throwing out as an example, perhaps a specific, yeah. So I'm suggesting to you to hold off on amending it, but that we work on a separate concise resolution requesting.
I'm certainly when I'm willing to do some of the research and find out what's happening there.
I'm happy to help you on that.
Okay, thank you.
So anything further on the resolution as it stands? All in favor? Carried, thank you. And there's one more, is there? Yes, there is. How are you feeling? You got off first, you can take this one first.
Thank you. So this is a resolution originating from the town of Smith Falls regarding basic income guarantee. So whereas the Council of Corporation of the Municipality of Sioux supports the the Corporation of the Town of Smith Falls Resolution number 2024-04-074 regarding basic income guarantee. Whereas the province of Ontario recognizes that low income after tax, (LIMAT), does not include the cost of housing, food, transportation, etc., and therefore set its low income workers tax credit for 2021 at $30,000 up to $38,000 for an individual and $60,000 up to $68,500 for a household. Whereas the province of Ontario has recognized the impacts of the costs of inflation following COVID-19, continued supply chain disruptions due to wars and climate change, and record high profits by companies providing necessities such as food, fuel, and housing, and has increased the low income tax credit eligibility to $32,500 up to $50,000 for an individual and $65,000 up to $82,500 for a household. Whereas the level of income is one of the most important social determinants of health and relates to many other determinants, including education, literacy, healthy behaviors, one's social environment, employment, and work conditions. Whereas low income is strongly correlated with a wide range of negative health outcomes, including heart disease, cancer, diabetes, and poor mental health, and with shorter life expectancies compared to higher income persons. Whereas the minimum wage in Ontario and the maximum amounts of financial support available through the Ontario Works and the Ontario Disability Support Program are deeply insufficient to meet the basic needs of full-time minimum wage workers or individuals or families drawing on OW or ODSP support. Whereas ongoing, widespread, and rapid changes in labor markets, including due to outsourcing, artificial intelligence, automation, and advance of the gig economy are causing more and more people to be exposed to labor changes beyond their control, adding to their vulnerability to low income. Whereas basic income is a means by which individuals, families, and whole communities can be less vulnerable to negative changes in health, relationship, family status, and labor markets, and better able to navigate transitions in challenging circumstances. Whereas basic income is money distributed to eligible people regularly, reliably, and without a work requirement, and which, absent of other income, should meet basic human needs. Whereas basic income exists in Canada in the form of longstanding programs like the Canada Child Benefit and the Guaranteed Income Supplement for seniors, programs with demonstrated positive impacts on basic income recipients, economies, and our greater society. Whereas there is a need to establish basic income security for working age adults in Canada who at present and in general lack sufficient social protection against low income. Whereas there is a growing body of evidence that basic income is not a disincentive on the pursuit or retention of employment, and that further basic income is more likely to support such pursuit or retention given its stabilizing effect on the lives of people. Whereas the gross cost of basic income program is reduced to a net cost once various funding options are exercised and the fiscal benefits of basic income are realized, for example, basic income as a local economic stimulus. Whereas Canada, as one of the wealthiest nations in the world, has the fiscal capacity to support a basic income guarantee for working age adults. Whereas the call for basic income in Canada has been and is being made by public health authorities, including the Leeds, Grenville, and Landmark District Health United's November 23 report on food security within the health region. Whereas the call for basic income in Canada has been and is being made by many other interests, including a growing number of municipalities of Ontario and beyond, and by a range of provincial and federal parliamentarians. Whereas a 2022 National Public Opinion poll suggests that 6 in 10 adults in Canada support the concept of basic income. And whereas the municipality of Sioux wishes to add its municipal voice to the call for basic income guarantee for working age adults in Canada. Now, therefore, be it resolved that 1, the municipality of Sioux supports the concept of a basic income guarantee for working age adults to help combat low income and economic vulnerability within our community. And 2, the municipality of Sioux calls upon the federal and provincial and territorial governments to collaborate on the design, introduction, implementation, and other evaluation of a national basic income guarantee program for working age adults.
Thank you. For discussion, we need a mover, Councillor Van Breda, seconder, Councillor Timpson, discussion, council, Councillor Van Breda.
Thank you. I'm a bit happy that this came to Sioux. I know that it's been going around to bigger cities, this UBI resolution. I think it was Wealth that passed a resolution, must have been a couple of months ago. And I thought, I'll come to Sioux eventually, but I'm impressed it came so quickly. And I kind of did some research about UBI because I do think that a universal basic income, much like the 4-day work week, is coming to this economy. If not an if, but a when. And so I just want to talk more about. I remember when I worked for the Toronto mayoral election back in 2018. I remember going to a few up debates, and there was this one lady who ran. She ended up getting in 4th place. I remember she spoke about the need for the government to subsidize transit, and the most thing that she mentioned was that she wanted Toronto City Hall to implement a UBI or a basic income for the lowest working, like stress to working. This is not people on no income. No, this is for people who are working full time, who just cannot get over the finish line every month. And I remember everybody laughed at her. I remember it was in the National Post, they did a little thing on her. Everybody thought that this was, there's no way the government's gonna subsidize transit, there's no way gonna subsidize the workers' income. And I remember 2 years later, COVID happened. I thought it was almost so funny that these people, the same people who were laughing at her 2018, were now rushing to serve. And they thought CERB was the best thing ever. CERB was this economic life raft, which it was, but it's funny that CERB was UBI. CERB was a universal basic income during the first stage of the pandemic. And then, so in 2020, 1/3 of all Canadian workers applied for CERB. And I just want to stress that this is people who are working, people who are paying taxes, they're in the system, but they just can't get past. They just can't afford heat and eat and rent and everything. And that, and looking at the Attorney General's final report, CERB proved to be a valuable tool for getting money to workers' hands quickly. Canada successfully burned the bulk of that economic depression, which was in 2020. Stats Canada said that the lowest paid employees received the most payments. 50% of earners of CERB saw their incomes grow from 2019 to 2020. CERB had mitigated employment income losses during for these low income workers. And according to the National Post, this was, I believe, in 2021. During 2020, child poverty was reduced from 17.7% to 13.5% in a single year. And that was the biggest annual decline they've ever had in reduction of child poverty. Child poverty has gone up since then because, of inflation and kind of the clawback of these financial kind of incentives from the feds. And then I remember learning about, so again, I remember during the previous provincial government, we had the Ontario Basic Income Pilot Project. So again, this was 4,000 low-income workers, stress the workers part. And although it was canceled early, 4 main themes came out of this project. Number 1, a desire of these participants to be financially independent. Number 2, traditional welfare payments were too low and didn't cover the basic necessities. Basic income, so their being on UBI did cover these basic needs and also left them income to spend, whether that be to spend in stores buying toys for their kids. Number 3, the conditional nature of traditional welfare programs has repercussions for recipients. And also, number 4, I think that this is the most important, basic income facilitated long-term financial planning that they never had before. So, like with this being said, UBI, it is working so far. And I think that we have to give it a shot to really figure out really the pros and cons about this, because we've had little projects here and there. CERB, for the most part, did work. The Ontario Basic Income Pilot Project, yes, it was unfortunately cut way too early, but for the most part, it was working so far. So, I mean, UBI, I think, is the future of most likely welfare recipients and welfare payments. So, I mean, I'm happy it came to us, and I'm more than happy to do it. But I think I'm waiting to see what other larger communities have to say too, because I think it's coming to Toronto. I think it did come to Toronto. And I think coming to these larger cities as well. So, yeah, I'm all in favor for it. Thanks.
Council, further comments? Councilor.
My question just pertains to the basic income. The eligible participants must be below the threshold, which for the Ontario pilot was 16,989. Is that the wages they were making to be eligible for any top up? I'm not comfortable voting for this when they're asking to raise from 30 to 38,000 with not knowing I understand there's different types of basic income guarantees in countries across the world, but and we have our welfare programs as well. So I'm just not, I don't have enough information to.
Thanks, Council. One, CIO, just, we can't expect staff to answer questions on outside resolutions that are not their reports. So we are, you're obligated to present them to council.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, so the way this process works is, council is provided with a monthly list of correspondence that's been received by the municipality. If there are any outside resolutions on that list, any member can bring that forward to the clerk and have that added to the following month's agenda for consideration. So to answer your question, no, staff doesn't write these. We don't do the research on these. Sometimes we're fortunate and the initiating municipality will send along a staff report or additional information, but that's not always the case, unfortunately. Yeah, that's, I think I answered your question.
Yeah, thanks. Councillor Cassidy and then Councillor Thompson.
Just a couple points on this. I think if basic income worked and it was all as great as it sounds in here, I don't think it'd need to come to this council table for endorsement. The case should write itself outside of this resolution. Also with regards to CERB and some of the comments, yeah, sure, it worked. Money went into your account, people spend it. But what was our total that COVID cost our country? 360 billion. CERB cost 60 billion in the first year estimate. So that's generational debt that our kids are going to take on and pay for. So sure, it worked, but there's costs, and there's costs to everything. And I'm not enough of an expert on this, and a week to review this and look, trying to understand that it's not enough time to do that. And like I said in my initial statement, I think if it did work, it shouldn't be relied on us passing a resolution to support it, to justify it. So I would support this resolution.
Now, there was a pilot project back in the 2014 to 18, I believe, and on this, and it was shown to work very well. It's universal basic income. Basically, this will reduce the cost to government because it will reduce the bureaucracy involved in processing people welfare applications. It will also put more money back into the community, into the business, into the economy. And I think it's the long term is that you will get people able to get established and have some financial planning. I really can't speak to the numbers here because I don't know the exact numbers, but I think we need to trust Smith Falls that they did their research. I don't think they would be sending this around to Ontario if they didn't. I think you need to send a message to the government that they need to start thinking about this again. That pilot project that was occurring in Southern Ontario in the 2014 to 18, it was discontinued by the subsequent government. I mean, when we look at the food, we need a food bank in this small town. We've got at least, I believe it's 100 families that are using the food bank. That's totally unacceptable in this wealthy country. I think we have to support this.
Councillor Cassidy.
I agree it isn't acceptable. I think it's unacceptable that inflation has run rampant the way it is, which has had that impact. And inflation has run rampant because we've spent $360 during COVID. So again, you make the case that if there's case studies out there that say it works, it's beneficial, then people should be referring to those case studies, not a resolution drafted by Smith Falls and supported by Sioux.
You have a government that doesn't support this basically, and that's why this is coming through the municipalities of Ontario, because we need to talk to this government. Previous government to that, they were the ones that started it, that instigated the pilot project. But this government, they need version.
So sorry for clarification, you say this government, which government are you interested in? Ontario provincial. I think there's lots of gaps in both other levels of government for supporting people and doing more to reduce cost of living and to alleviate our housing crisis that would impact and have a direct benefit on providing a better means for people to live as well. There's other solutions, I think, out there that the government needs to look at. Don't get me wrong, I think there's definitely shortcomings. If there's ways to reduce bureaucracy, go for it, but everything I've seen from our two levels of government above us, they love to add bureaucracy and layers of government. I think the federal government's doubled in size in the last how long? Since before COVID. So there's no shortage of bureaucracy. It's where you find it. And I think if the case is there, it should be in the case studies and the numbers to support it and support moving forward with it.
Okay, it's interesting. I'm sorry, we're discussing things that could belong at Parliament. I think you're right in the legislation. So often less is more. If this resolution just had the last 2 points, one, the municipality supports the concept of the basic income guarantee for working age adults to help combat low income and economic vulnerability within our community, and two, Sioux calls upon the federal and provincial territorial governments to collaborate on the design, introduction, implementation, ongoing evaluation. If that's all it said, I'd be 100%. There's some of the other things in here that I probably don't agree with. I'm just not quite sure of. And I'd also like to say that I think we might want to consider asking public health, Northwestern Health Unit, I think has a position on basically, they've done studies on shopping baskets and cost of living, and KDSV, who administers and manages so many of the programs that the people, although it's working people as well. So personally, rather than defeat it, I'd like to defer. I don't help me, CAO. I just think there's information in here that is intentionally contentious. And creates the kind of debate, and that's fine to have that debate, but I don't think at the municipal level we need that. Is there an opportunity to defer this and if I get from KDSB and the health unit, what their stance is on this?
Through your words, that's certainly an option. I think that if there is concern with the lengthy preamble in this resolution, that I think it's okay that council doesn't support that if there are concerns with that, and perhaps the health units and KBSB are contacted. Perhaps they can help draft a resolution that's.
What I don't want to do is is contradict anything that they've already put out. Their agency that represent us, and they will be, they're generally quite measured in what they put out, and I find the last two clauses of this reasonably measured, and it's supporting basic, which I would support, but I'm not quite prepared to go with this, all this preamble and support that outright. I'd rather defer. Would council accept that we defer this? And if somebody, you're not going to change your position. I have that sense that this would be defeated if it was called to a vote tonight. I know it would be. Because it would be a tie, and it would be, I can just read the room, folks, that you see it. So we could defeat it, or we could defer it and bring it back with a bit more information on what the health unit and KDSV's positions might be to enhance this. Probably won't change people's minds, but might gain support.
I support deferring it and getting more information. Yeah,
And I don't, what I'm trying to do is not get a whole bunch of detailed information on income, and I don't want that at the council. I want to know what the position is of the health unit, specifically KDSB. Could that inform us in a motion like this?
Yeah, well, see, I would also support that too, just because this is my opinion. Smiths Falls is a richer suburb of Ottawa. Wealth is a richer suburb of Toronto. I know that's up for debate, but that's just for me being, that's my opinion. I think that poverty in Southern Ontario is vastly different from poverty in Northwestern Ontario. So I want Northwestern Ontario facts, Northwestern Ontario numbers, you know what I mean? As opposed to Ontario-wide numbers, I want specifically, if possible, KBSB, from the health unit, numbers about our area.
And I think we have to be careful as a municipal council, at some points we push back against the province, or sometimes but you have to be careful not to be used as a tool of some of these political agenda to advance things and create friction and whatever. I think stay within our lane. The welfare of our people in this sense is our lane, and I do support basic income, but some of this is just a bit. So if I'm suggesting defer, what's the process for the meeting here?
If you know, so if the mover, who's Councillor Van Breda, agrees to withdraw to move that and be passed, then we would ask for a mover and seconder on a motion to defer.
And when I say defer, I don't want to bring this back. I want to bring something considerably different, modified, but on that meeting for those two same conclusions, but.
Yes, so through Mayor Lawrence, the instruction to staff will be to reach out to the KDSB and the Northwestern Health Unit to provide information on the realities and impacts of universal basic income in our region
And what their position
and their
is.
position on it.
Fair enough. So you're the mover, would you withdraw and give that direction to staff? Your council, is council okay with this? I know some of you would just want to get it off the plate, but
So the resolution is up and passed.
it's neither being passed nor defeated. It's being withdrawn. And how do is that just the mover is adequate? We've done that?
There should be a vote, so if the mover and seconder, the original mover and seconder are comfortable with also moving and seconding to defer, if that's, not to defer, to withdraw, then we can take a vote on the motion to withdraw.
They are comfortable. Seconder is,
Councillor Tips,
okay, now what's the next one?
that council withdraws, the resolution from the town of Smith Falls regarding basic income guarantee.
All in favor? Carried. And staff has some direction on this.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Boy, get loaded out with outside resolutions in one meeting, one thing. Council reports before we move into closed session. Council.
Okay, it's actually a busy few weeks. July 23rd, I attended the Hydro shareholders meeting. August 12th, met with consultants for the recreation study. This 13th, a special meeting for training. Attended multiple events with Blueberry Council. I was at the opening ceremonies. There was nice tributes to Althea George. Like to also recognize her for all the work she did over the years. I attended Wachi, went to the tennis, went to the baseball, participated in golf, trivia. I could go on and on. It's a well-run event as usual, lots of people. Great weather except for that one Friday. But I really enjoyed myself. August 8th, I had a 1-hour meeting with the CAO. We visited locations throughout the community, parks and beaches, just for discussion, just to see what Sioux has out there as far as. Sometimes we forget, like we have play equipment centers that have been in the last few years really updated, and Cigar School, Sioux Mountain is redoing theirs right now. I remember a few years ago, the uproar when the Lions Park recreation center was taken down, and everyone said, "Oh, just wait." And the Tourist Information Center is a really beautiful spot. And we drove in our turnaround, I think it was Umbreville, right? And like very nice, well kept spot. And a lot of people forget that. They forget about we have Cedar Bay as well. We also discussed road conditions and certain signage, that whether it needs replacing or obscured or otherwise. It's obscured by brush or permanent structures. That was about it. I got them back to the office safely.
Thank you.
Councillor Timpson.
Yeah, I attended a Clear District Municipal Association meeting in which we were given a presentation by an insurance company suggesting we consider sort of a collective insurance approach in our district. Would likely possibly I consulted with the CA. It might reduce our costs. However, that's in your ballpark now. I attended the Deloitte consultation this week on the feasibility study. The special council meeting, I would say 4 or 5 very festival events, and I must say, I think it's one of the best I've seen in all the years it's been going, so congratulations to the
committee.
yeah, to you guys, yeah. A hyper AGM, and then I did 4 different meetings and greetings with medical doctors thinking of coming here. And the mayor and I last night met with a gentleman who's very interested in coming, and apparently people are quite impressed with the mayor or a council member and talking about. And so this particular month, there are actually 2 possibilities of doctors contracting with us. So it's been worthwhile, that I think. And that was my month.
Thank you, Councillor Van Breda.
I attended the tourism diversification in the downtown revitalization open house at the Sunset Suites. I think it went very well. Took a lot of notes about going forward, and I do want to say big props to Jen for doing that. You were amazing, did a good job. Attended the special council meeting on 23rd, also the council meeting on the 13th as well. Attended the July TRC meeting as well with Councillor Costco. And then myself and Councillor Costco met with the CEO and mayor as well, had a good talk. And then did a number of events, really busy with the Blueberry Festival. I would say too that this is probably the best Blueberry Festival in my memory. I think the events went really well. Everything went well. The weather was good. I did attend the open ceremonies. Me and another community member were stuck getting cupcakes, so we missed the entire event, but that was okay. We got the cupcakes back in time. Hosted 2 events. I just want to say big props to Mayor Lewis for coming up to the Pride Parade. You were the only mayor of the area to come to the Pride Parade, and I give you props for that. That's good. That shows Sioux Lookout. Our mayor cares about the US LGBTQA community in here in Sioux Lookout. Also hosted the TRC Rocks Action event in Hudson. That went really well too. We had people come out from Sioux Lookout, who a couple of people came out. They said who said I didn't even know this was even a building. You know, I thought it was just a closed building. And I was like, oh, it's open. We're here. So Blueberry Festival event. I just say a big congrats to Kaylee, who was our coordinator, who did a lot of work. And a lot of work also to a big props to Dory Holko as well for all the work she's done in the background to get the Blueberry Festival up and running.
Thank you, Councillor Van Breda. Councillor Cassidy.
Yep, same special council meetings that have been mentioned already. Yeah, took part in several blueberry events as well, which were fantastic. The festival was done extremely well this year. It was great to see a lot of people back in town for it as well, which was nice to see. So yeah, those special meetings, and I did attend the Deloitte meeting as well for the rec center survey. So it's good.
Thank you, Councillor Lee.
Same meetings, Blueberry is always family time, so. And my workers were gone, so I had to work every day on Blueberry Festival. But that's just the way it goes. I had fun and got sick last week, but feeling a lot better now.
Thank you. I attended the same meetings that you did in terms of council meetings, special meetings, attended the open house, the tourism, CAO meetings. We've been preparing for AMO preparation, considerable preparation for that. Informal meetings with Chief Bull, telephone and otherwise, meeting with him, attended the treaty days in Sioux and spoke on behalf of council there. Regular monthly meeting with Eric Malillo and another meeting at the trade show, and he had his booth there, sat with him, chatted for a while. We had a meeting with the Minister of Long-Term Care several weeks ago, CIO and I, looking for an update on long-term care. And it's essentially in the same place. We do have a delegation with the Minister of Long-Term Care. That wasn't the minister, that was senior staff. I think there's an ADM on the meeting. We keep on sending the message, and we're taking the message in a different way, a little bit more graphic to the minister and him. Met with Dr. Laxo and the CAO regarding some support for physician services that other agencies. It was a combined letter that's gone out on physician services for Sioux, bringing to the attention of Minister Jones some of the needs for Sioux. Merle Burkholder, a community member who was a very strong volunteer in our community, went to his goodbye. He's retiring to a community in Southern Ontario, retirement community, and close to his family. But there was a nice gathering for him. Garnet Angelina passing, we acknowledge that, and his wake service and funeral service. I spoke on behalf of council there and acknowledged Garnet and his contributions. Sitting meetings with Councillor Van Peter Costco and the CAO, attended the newly opened car wash on Wellington Avenue, Reverend Kevin on behalf of council there. Meetings with the health unit, AMO preparation meetings for the delegations that the health unit has. Blueberry Festival, opening remarks. Thank you for that, and thanks to staff, acknowledgement of all the additional work the staff does throughout the Blueberry Festival, often behind the scenes. The municipal contribution is solid, so thanks to all staff who worked on that. Competed in the Bannock Bake-Off with the TRC committee. I was given the duty of firekeeper, and I know next time I have to do a better job. But we did get runner up out of 6, so the TRC committee came 6th. Kudos to Darlene Andrikinev and Councillor Costco who led that. And I attended the trade show, the Pride Parade remarks and opening remarks. And I take it you meant, I didn't expect any other mayors to come to our Pride Parade. You meant other Pride Parades in the area. They never attended there. I'm happy to do that on an ongoing basis, support the community. Sioux Mountain Music Festival, opening remarks there for, I think that was the 42nd, did I get that right? Sioux Mountain Music Festival. So kudos to Tommy Kuzmachuk and others who are keeping that going over the years, and lots of young performers and lots of music. Also, we should thank the fire department and the Lions Club for the fireworks that went off during the Blueberry Festival, but the Canada Day postponement, and that was, I hear nothing but good things said about the fireworks display and the work that the fire department does. I see the fire department at many Blueberry events supporting and putting out or attending to possible fires and supporting for the kids and whatever. So the detachment board meeting we had, was that our first? That was our second meeting. It was a lengthy meeting. Minister of Finance, the CIO and I had a delegation with a PA, parliamentary assistant, with the Minister of Finance yesterday, talking about we talked about the impact of the LCBO strike and closure and impact on police and calls for service, and looking for help there. And he was very receptive to us and is going to take things up the channel, as he said. But I had a good feeling with him. And last night, attended a physician recruitment dinner with Counselor Timpson. I just, kudos to Counselor Timpson for your ongoing work in physician recruitment. You are the rock star of council for physician recruitment, so thank you very much. And it looks like maybe it's helping, right? So, good. And that's the month that was. Anyone coming up? And for now, we're going to move into closed session, and then we'll take a 5-minute break to get in closed session. So the council moves into closed session at 7:05 PM to discuss matters of general nature relating to a proposed acquisition of disposition of land by the municipality pursuant to the Municipal Act 2001 as amended, section 239(2)(c), one item, Hillcrest Development. And subject matter relating to personal matters of identifiable individuals, including municipal or local board employees, as per Municipal Act 2001, as amended, section 239(2)(b). 2 items, appointments to council boards, commissions, and committees, and membership and CAO performance checking. Mover? Councilor Nagle, seconded by Councilor Cassidy, all in favor? We will come back in 5 minutes in closed session. Thank you.